Sorry for using text-to-speech instead of my voice, but I'm terrible at voicing a script, and it is not specified in the assignment brief. Moving on. The three companies that I have decided to talk about are Interplay Entertainment as a publisher, Blizzard Entertainment as a developer, and Bethesda as a publisher, developer. There are also some subjects in this video not specific to any of these three and are about the game industry in general. Most of the information on these businesses are hard to find as they are very private about their business, but some educated guesses can be made with some knowledge of the game industry as to how these companies work. As far as departments go, a publisher will only have a few main departments such as marketing and distribution, whereas a developer will have quite a few more for the different areas in game development, the programmers and artists for example. Of course both will have some departments that every business has, such as a legal department, but these should not be important to mention as nearly every business has them. Of course a company that is a combination of the two will have all of these departments. The same can be said about the job roles. The name of the department shows types of what jobs people have in those departments, such as programmers or marketers, which is specific to those companies. Work hours for game developers are quite regular throughout development unless they need to rush the development, which can last weeks to months at a time and is basically 24/7 work for that time. Publishers will have a regular work schedule throughout the development, most likely being 9/5, a mix of these would have the same as the developers. However, the two companies that work in development are big enough to not need to rush development and change release date as they see fit. Business models are plans for the business's budget and brand throughout the business's lifetime. Interplay Entertainment's brand is a lot more serious and professional than a lot of games companies. They did this by picking games to publish that represent this brand. The other two companies are a lot more focused on the community behind their games. This may be because of the types of games they make. Budgeting is an important part in development, especially when it is used. Publishers will use most of their budget near the end as they will advertise stronger and have to distribute the product. Developers will spend more money at the start of development because they will need less people as they finish different parts of the game, giving a mix of the two types an evenly spread budget throughout the development. If they publish their own game, publishers will be financially responsible. If a contract is written up to keep funding the developers for as long as the contract specifies, developers will normally have to make sure that they stay afloat long enough to finish the game so that the publisher gets paid, but Bethesda and Blizzard are both big enough that they don't really have to worry about that since they have specialists publishing their games. Budget to performance evaluations are done by net profit, loss, how much was gained, how much was spent. Most games that are sold will get publishers and developers about 25% each, with one developer and one publisher, but Blizzard would get more as they carry a lot of influence, as does Bethesda, who also publish it, so will get double what everyone else would get. Games publishers will have to report to the higher-ups in the company and the developers as to how successful their marketing was, while developers will have to report to the publishers on the progress of the game development. A mix will only have to report to higher-ups because they can normally publish their own games. Break-even analysis is used to determine when your business will be able to cover all its expenses and begin to make a profit. It is important to identify your startup costs, which will help you determine your sales revenue needed to pay ongoing business expenses. In the gaming industry, this would help to show how many copies they would need to sell to break even. Make as much money as they used. If they break even, then they will have made no money and lost no money. It is a company's goal to get as high above their break-even point as possible. Funding groups are separate groups from the ones making the game that will fund the project either throughout the development or through a single investment. Some will donate to projects and expect nothing in return, but most will invest in a project and write up a contract to get a percentage of the project's income in the end. Milestones are significant events or changes in a timeline. For example, in the gaming industry, these can be the first 3D game, the creation of Steam, or even the growth of the gaming audience. Some of these milestones are the first original video game, although people believe this to be Pong. It was in fact Space Wars in 1962, original video game meaning it was the first with an original concept. Pong on the other hand has its own milestone, the first video game on a home console, 1972, the introduction to first person in Wolfenstein 3D in 1992. Licensing in gaming is much like licensing in movies or TV series. There is normally text on the box or in the product, e.g. game or film, saying that it is for personal use only and should not be sold or copied. There are some circumstances when this is allowed, such as videos on streaming sites, but they will normally require the company's permission. Franchises are a series of games that normally share the same name. The point of this is to use the name as a brand recognition factor so the franchise is seen as a separate entity from the company. Franchises are not always made by one company. Call of Duty, for example, is made by two companies that alternate which one will make the next game. Interplay Entertainment started the Fallout franchise and created Fallout 1, 2 and Brotherhood of Steel, but then sold the franchise to Bethesda, who made Fallout 3, New Vegas and, most recently, 4. Blizzard has a few main franchises that it's known for, but the biggest by far is Warcraft, World of Warcraft for example. This is one of the biggest reasons that Blizzard is such a big player in the gaming industry and why it has so much influence over the marketplace of gaming. Some of the latest marketing trends include subscription games. A lot of games in 2016 have been subscription games. Even some games from some of the biggest franchises such as Elder Scrolls and Final Fantasy. There is even a Fallout MMO coming out at some point in the future. Another trend is abstract games. A lot of games have a lot more abstract art and a lot more abstract concepts. This can be shown in games like That Dragon Cancer for its art style and Life is Strange for its concept. This trend can be compared to movies, as some recent movies have had a lot more complex and abstract ideas. This is harder to do in live-action films because they can't have certain art styles with real people. One of the main industry trends is the rise of mobile games. They have made a lot of money as they are convenient for people who don't have a lot of time to play games or are on the move. This trend is shown because some big franchises have now made mobile games either to boost awareness or because of the demand for big mobile games, such as certain Final Fantasy games being ported to mobile or new games made for it and the recent Fallout Shelter game. Another one of course is reboots, remakes. These have got popular because of the nostalgia that people have from playing older games. This has been done very recently with Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim getting rebooted and a lot of other remakes of older games that have been made recently. This can also be seen in the film industry as many superhero movies have been remade recently, including the Ghostbusters remake movie, although this trend is now dying out in both industries. A lot of the information provided about specific companies is very hard to find, especially on Interplay Entertainment, as they are not doing much anymore, so some of the things I have said may be wrong for that company as they are informed guesses based on how business works and other similar companies. Thank you for watching.